Lynched on CTV, proudly brought to you by Christchurch's #1 dining offer, Sequoia 88 at the Redwood Hotel, a food concept unequalled. And it's great to have your company tonight. It's a big year for our Christchurch City Council, under pressure to sort out its finances and that costly 10-year plan. But what do you actually need to know? Well, councillors Paul Longstell and Jimmy Cheng join me, and Lynched starts right now. Good evening to you. It's a massive year for the Christchurch City Council. The books are open, that 10-year plan discussion is underway, but let's get some perspective on what this actually means for you and I, a ratepayer of this city. I'm joined tonight by councillors Paul Longstell and Jimmy Chen, and good evening to you both.
Good evening.
Nice to have the programme. This is both your first time on Lynched.
Yes, never been lynched live on TV.
Well, tonight is your lucky night, guys. Let's first up discuss a lot of talkback, a lot of feedback on proposals to charge residents for water. This is nothing new, to be fair. This is nothing that the Christchurch City Council is advocating. It is a proposal, however, by local government. Is it something we're going to have to? Well, we need to have this discussion, don't we, Paul?
Well, look. First of all, we're not going to go out and charge for water at this point. I mean, to actually put the infrastructure in to enable us to charge water would cost more than we could actually collect. So
well, that's what I was thinking.
That's the first part. But I think the water is a really interesting discussion because. When councils do charge for water, there is a significant drop. So there is conservation benefits, and I don't think people are aware that although we have an abundance of water at this point, if we continue using water at the rate we do, our aquifers will run dry by the year 2041. So we do need to start thinking about it as an issue.
Yeah. That's a scary thought. Jimmy, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I would like to emphasize, because at the moment, as you are aware, regarding to the cities, the kind of water facility still going on to be the repair. And based on the the information, it is about 27%, which means 19 kilometers of the water pipe still has been damaged, need to be repaired going on. Yeah.
So you're suggesting then that this is one additional cost that we could actually have to pay for the infrastructure?
It's not to pay for the infrastructure, because at the moment it's extraordinary time, because regarding like water leakage, etc. If we repair this kind of water infrastructure, then probably back to the normal situation. In that time, we probably need to consider. Another one, like Paul, he mentioned earlier, actually council already charged the repair, the water, the consumption, water supply. Yeah, already.
Interesting, when I was living in Auckland, guys, and we'd get the water bill every 3-4 months, whatever it is, but it didn't make me think twice about conserving or saving water. I would still do whatever I want to do, shower as long as I want to shower. You know what I mean? Do you sincerely believe that if we went down this path of charging for water, people would actually choose the option of not using water as long as they probably would? Would it actually work, though?
Yeah, the councils have got those charges. There has been a drop in consumption, or should we say wastage, because you consider when you actually turn the tap on, you turn it on till it actually goes cold or hot, and you let it blare away there, so you are wasting water there. So you would consider some of those things that you do. And for some people, when they do get their water charges, have an adverse reaction. You obviously didn't have that reaction, Chris, so...
No. Go for gold as far as I'm concerned. Jimmy?
Yeah. Another one, I think probably education is most important. For instance, like early in the morning, we brush our teeth. If we consider have a good habit, like we turn on the tap water, we brush our teeth, but we can in that time to turn off. After we need the water, then we turn on the tap water. This kind of very easy for everyone can.
So you reckon we will be encouraged to actually save water then?
Well, as I said, I think it comes back to the situation. I don't think people realise how precious our water is, and that there is a finite existence of actually our water supply. So we need to consider it, and we need to think about it now before we actually get to the point where actually, it has run out.
Yeah.
Let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon.
Well, it's 2041. That's what they're saying.
Where'd you get those stats from? That's scary.
Yeah, it is. It's
hopefully they'll be still alive by then, won't it? Well, maybe not actually.
2040. You're right. It's not actually that far away.
Let's discuss Victoria Square.
Yeah.
What an absolute rigmarole this has been from the day one. It seems the CCDU have failed miserably to communicate what they want, what they see best fitting. It seems they think if they do a token suggestion of talking to Ngāi Tahu and a bunch of council staff, that's good enough. It is not good enough. What do you make of this, Jimmy? The Victoria Square, do you want it left how it is? Do you accept some changes need to happen? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, because I'm so happy that the CCDU would like to have a consultation with the community. But this issue actually is the CCDU alone, rather than council responsibility.
Well, you make a good point, because it was not actually the Christchurch City Council that decided these weird changes. It was all for the CCDU, wasn't it, Paul?
Look, one thing for a start off is that I think most people thought, when they thought about the Abram River precinct, they didn't realise Victoria Square was going to be part of that.
No, and Leanne rightly said that. She had no idea.
The second part is they took quite a bit of information out of the share an idea. And so, obviously, yes, it's not broken. Secondly, pre-earthquake, it wasn't utilised a great deal. It was a nice space, but it was underutilised, and it may well have been because it had that building plopped in the middle of actually Victoria Street. So now that it's open, may make it a more usable space. I think there is an opportunity to tweak, but I think there needs to be a good discussion with the community and actually take on board what they're saying. So this isn't a consultation, it's an engagement, and they are different. So we're just got to bear that in mind.
What's the difference between engagement and consultation? All these blimmin' buzzwords that you get when you work at the council, Paul.
Well, it's not actually just working at the council, obviously it's a CCD word. But consultations where you go out and you have a meaningful discussion, the outcomes of those discussions form the outcome of what you actually are going to do. And engagements where you actually have chats with various parts of the community, and measure the temperature of what they're thinking.
Jimmy, do you think this engagement, this consultation will be truly meaningful?
Yeah, I think so, because if the CCDU have a strong intention, would like to have this kind of a consultation or engagement with the people, then give the people and the wider community an opportunity to have their say. I think that's most important, because you consider this kind of Victoria Square belong to the people, belong to the community, belong to all of us. So everyone is eligible to have their say, to make this Victoria Square, can fit, can make everyone acceptable and happy.
I think you're right to suggest Victoria Square in the past was perhaps underutilised, but I wonder whether that has changed now, because it's the only kind of landmark in the city that's familiar to us that hasn't been either destroyed by the earthquake or the CCDU, with the greatest respect.
No, I agree with you. I think there's a bigger focus on it. As I said, it hasn't got that big building that foreshadowed it. That's gone. And you're right, it's a lovely green space. And how that will work in the future, well, that's perhaps part of the discussion we're going to have with the community.
I want to pick you up on that after the break. We do need to take a break. It's a big issue, though, here in Christchurch and Auckland. Are we going to see similar prices to that of Auckland with news that's been out recently on house prices? Do stay with us. Welcome back to Lynched on CTV. My guests tonight are councillors Paul Longstell and Jimmy Chen. Paul, I want to start with you. Housing affordability report came out a couple of weeks ago. Not good news for Christchurch, we know this though. What worries me is that we'll start to see house prices in Christchurch being similar to that of Auckland. I hope this doesn't happen, but I feel like it won't be that long before we start seeing house prices, the norm being $1 million. What do you see in this, with housing affordability studies saying it's still unaffordable to live in this city, with investors actively being hawked, so to speak, in other countries? Are you concerned?
I am. Look, our own daughter was looking for a flat just recently, and it's extremely difficult for students to find a flat that's affordable.
There's some real dumps out there, aren't there?
The houses that they're looking at are, what I wouldn't want my kids to live in there.
Is that right?
Yeah, and they're expensive. And And I suppose if you go back, 8 years ago when we had a lot of the English coming into New Zealand, they had their pounds, they were paying big money for houses here, and it did push house prices up. Great example, Maryvale. Now, I went to a house that was labelled Maryvale, and it was in Manchester Street East.
Oh, Manchester Street East. But what is that now? Lower Maryvale.
If you were coming from
what rubbish,
if you were coming from England, you wouldn't know, but you would have heard Maryvale is a great place to be. So you would actually think. So it's actually how we market ourselves that. There has to be some responsibility placed on how we market it and who we market it to.
Jimmy, how do we do that then? How do we ensure that we have houses in this city that remain affordable to citizens of this city and country first?
Yeah. At the moment, as you are aware, the council, we have the housing working group and also the new housing management board. Right now, they figure out how to make a plan, to establish and assist in providing a good the quality, healthy, the affordable housing to the people, to the community. For instance, like the vulnerable families, the transitional housing, and also the youth, the transitional housing. This kind of, and also regarding to this plan, we can make sure, the first buyer, the people, they can buy the price is around the 325K.
I agree.
With the help of the
325,000 seems reasonable.
Yes.
But is it realistic, Paul? Have we got that at the moment?
Well, because of the situation with our daughter, we went out looking at houses to perhaps purchase to help our daughter out and pay the rent. And there's not a lot in the market for $325,000, to be fair. And the ones that are $325,000 is...
Cupboards.
Well, they're small, they're run down, and they're in locations that, have their issues. So, it's... But look, if you go back years, I remember my father saying, and I bought my first house for $50,000, he said they'll never keep going up at the rate they're going, and they have. They've just kept going up and up and up.
I do wonder if the so-called housing bubble will eventually burst, and what happens then?
Well, you've seen it.
But are we actually even experiencing a housing bubble, though? Are we? Do you think?
We're experiencing growth in two of our major cities. One from a rebuild, one from just people moving to Auckland and their markets expanding. So those sort of pressures actually put pressure on the market because there isn't enough houses. We look at ways we can actually assist getting more houses back on the market by freeing up land, intensification and those sort of methods, but really comes down to developers. They will only develop when they feel that they're going to get a return on their investment. So freeing up land doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get more houses on the market.
Jimmy, are we building enough houses fast enough to cope with the market?
Yeah, at the moment, my personal view, with the kind of the housing, the private sector and the council and the government work together, my personal view right now is is quite enthusiastic. Yeah.
Well, I hope with this housing accord that makes a difference, but is it just lip service, Paul?
No, we've got a very large portfolio of social housing stock, and it is a way we can actually look to actually bring on partners to assist us providing more social and affordable housing. And that's through intensifying some of our own assets because some of them are actually underutilised or actually past their use-by date and need to be actually redeveloped. So that's what the Accord's all about. Obviously, we don't have a lot of funds to do it ourselves, so we need to find partners to help us out.
Let's just briefly touch on, we've got enough time, Doug, before we go take a break? Yeah. I just want to touch on the story in today's paper, the CCDU relaxing some of the rules. Can you explain that to me? Is it a beat up, or do you think there are serious concerns regarding, I mean, you could say the CCDU is trying to do the right thing by relaxing some of the rules to allow development faster. I'm an impatient man, Paul Longsdale, you probably know that. I just want things done. But I still think we've got to ensure we're not going to go down a leaky building syndrome thing, right?
Look, if you look at, as I say, we release lots of land. We've got up to 19,000 sections to be actually released back into the market. Sometimes we release this land, it doesn't get developed for years and years and years. I see the planning rules relaxing those. I have some concerns about the amount of relaxation that's taken place on those because what that will end up being, it does reduce the compliancy costs and so forth, but sometimes that doesn't reduce the cost, so you end up with a lower spec house at the same value,
same price.
And the only one that wins is the developer, and of course it doesn't leave a great legacy for the city going forward.
What is the deal with this green belt? Can someone is this moving ahead? Is it not moving ahead? We've got the IRD building that sits there vacant. Is this one big stuff up? No pressure, Paul.
No, look.
Tell me what you really think.
I just think that actually we've had a major disaster. The recovery was always...
Don't be diplomatic on me now, please.
No, I'm actually dead serious. And you look at this from the inside and the outside, and I've been on both sides of it. So, you know, there were certain projects that it got off the ground really, really quickly, like the Restart project, some of the, you know, temporary transitional projects. Yeah. But the reality is 80% of the buildings in Central City came down. Now, whether they needed to or not, that's sometimes some of the debate. They came down. We've got to rebuild that. We've got to do it in a manner that's going to make the city a better place for the next 150 years. Yeah. So you better take a bit more time planning and getting that right than actually sort of fast-tracking everything and then looking back and going, well, that was a bit of a mistake.
Oh, look,
so there's a fine line, I suppose.
Yeah, there is
actually.
A fine line. I completely agree with you. I want to come back and pick you up on those points as well. Another thing we need to discuss after the break is car parking. Whose responsibility is it? Is it Sarah? Is it the CCDU? Is it the council? We'll discuss that and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Lynched. Tonight my guests are councillors Paul Longstyle and Jimmy Chen. Paul, let me come to you first. What's going on with parking in Central City? It's all very well for the government to build a beautiful looking justice precinct, but when you've got only, 450 car parks and there's in excess of, 2,000 people potentially in that building at one time, who's responsible, please?
And the visitors.
Well, yeah.
So parking is a big issue. It is actually a Christchurch City Council responsibility. We have been a little bit hampered, not a little bit, quite majorly hampered by our insurance, and that hasn't been settled yet. We have entered into an agreement with the Carter Group. They will be building a 535 bay car park, and we're hoping that's going to be up within the next year.
Where would that be from, sorry?
With the
is that the Carter Group?
The crossing,
right.
Crossing car park. We had agreed to pull down the Litchfield Street car park so we could at least provide at-grade car parking. That was supposed to happen pre-Christmas, and the insurance company, we've been working with them so they can get the information they need. Look, it's very complicated. In the end, you know, they don't believe it's an economical write-off. We do, and we've actually had it peer reviewed. They believe that it'll cost $1.9 million to actually fix. We've got a $23 million insurance cover on it. So, you know, we've got to be very careful how we progress with this here.
Hang on, so this is the Litchfield car park. So at the moment you've got a fight going on with the insurance company that says they want to fix it.
Well,
there ain't no way I'm going in there if when it's fixed, that's for sure. So you've got that issue, but the council's saying, look, it's uneconomical to repair, bring it down, let's get going.
Correct.
Right, what are the numbers?
The other part is we also will be looking at going out for expressions of interest for Central City parking. We have X amount of dollars. There's certainly not enough money in the kitty.
Can you not go to Wilson car park, please? Can you just give them a long bed, please?
Look, we will go out to the communities, but we've actually had some proposals come into us.
From Wilson car parks?
No, not from Wilson car park. From, you know, interested parties, and you know, some of them are actually really, really good. I mean, I am fully confident at the end of all this here, we're going to have some great parking solutions.
Because I've heard the reports, Jimmy, you probably too, saying, well, look, we don't need to worry too much about parking because we're going to have this fabulous new bus exchange. Yeah, great, but at the end of the day, it's trying to change that mindset of Christchurch and Canterburyans to get into public transport, to get out of the cars and into buses. That's not going to happen overnight. Yes. Unless you've got superior public transport, that'll never work. Yeah, so, in terms of parking, do you worry that that the council and the government have not moved fast enough with the market, with the rebuild?
My personal view, you know, the city parking is part of a city's recovery, and also based on the cost sharing agreement. If we are aware, you know, the council contribute for $70 million and engage with the private sector. However, this is still part of the anchor project. So my personal view, the council need to work together with the CCDU to up the plan, you know, how to resolve this issue, you know, for the long term, rather than just individually. Yeah, this is my view. Should be the
You make a good point. Well, let me pick you up on that, guys. In terms of the communication between I don't know why I find it funny, the CCDU and the council. What's going on there? Are you having chin wags with whoever's involved in that now? Warwick Isaac, do you meet with him or what's the deal?
I met with a group of very concerned business and property owners last year, late before Christmas, with the CCDU, which Warwick Isaacs, Greg Wilson, myself, some of the property owners, some of our council staff, and we came up with a plan for Christmas to actually supply more parking. So the whole team identified where we could actually replace parking, and we've got to remember a lot of the areas now that had at-grade parking are now getting built on. So that is a good outcome.
Which is good and bad, yeah.
But there's always going to be a squeeze point where there's enough rebuild going on and there's limited space, and we're at that point right now. So it is a concern, especially for the next year and a half.
You won't get me on a bus anytime soon, that's for sure. Not with kids. Rude children. I want to turn our attention now to, I mean, we've got some fabulous events happening in the city, and I know, Paul, you had a bit of a hand in this mountain bike park from the get-go, really. Can you explain that to me? Because I think that is going to be absolutely brilliant.
Look, it's one of those things that come across our table. We see a few things like this here, and when they do, you sort of go, that is really going to make Christchurch, it's going to add value to your community. They have secured a 50-year lease, as we know, and we're working with them to make sure we can actually assist them getting this over the line, because it does come down to funding. We don't have the funds, but we can certainly help guarantee what they need to do. And they've also got 15 days of hearings to go through, still to get that across the line. Yeah,
please, I hope that there's no greenies that try to prevent this amazing-looking attraction.
There was over a couple of hundred people actually, came out in support, and I believe there's about 35 odd that were against for various reasons. What
were their reasons? What are they?
Some of the people live
down the forest,
live down that area. There's some traffic concerns around the corner where you lead into there, so those things can be mitigated.
Yeah.
The outcome.
Nothing wrong with having, tweaking bits and pieces here to make sure it fits, but,
And what we got to remember, this is going to be such a wonderful facility. We're the only one in the entire world that'll have 12-month lift access, whereas the Northern Hemisphere, they only have 12 months of the year where they can actually use their lifts. Will be all year round.
Jimmy, that's a great thing about our city. In terms of our weather and our conditions, summer, winter, they're quite variable. There's not too much difference, really, and I look at, other global temperatures. We're lucky in this city. We're lucky in this country, aren't we?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Before we go, I've got, hopefully, the head of the CCDU, Warwick Isaacs, on the program next week. What shall I ask him, Paul Longstyle?
How are things going? When he expected to have things finished? Look, I suppose you could ask him the tough questions and see his responses. I mean, he'll have his responses, and
it'll be interesting anyway.
That's a good question, though,
I do wonder whether he's got any major say in anything, to be honest, and whether, who is running the city? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I do wonder how much say do you think councillors have in this city?
We have say on a number of things. We don't have total control over our city, as you'll be aware. We've got the
So the 10-year plan, for example, that's going to come down to a bunch of commissioners. They're going to go tick, 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 nah. So I wonder whether it doesn't make your job slightly invalid.
Look,
respectfully,
what you've got to remember, the district plan review, this is a really truncated process. The last one took 26 years. We've got more things through that will actually aid a really great city going forward through in a really short amount of time. So we can't lose sight of that fact, and the fact that there will be smaller parts that we won't get through that we can attend to at a later date. Right. But we have to remember we've got a massive amount of things through to actually develop the city in a great way for the future, in a really short space of time, which would have never happened under a different process.
All right, at least there's an air of positivity this year, and I like that. Jimmy, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming into the program.
Thank
Paul
you.
Longstyle.
Yes.
Nice to see you again. And give me the name of the insurance company, please. I'll be on their back tomorrow. News Talks TV. Fools. And that is our program this week. You have a great night. Lynched on CTV. Proudly brought to you by Christchurch's #1 dining offer, Sequoia 88 at the Redwood Hotel, a food concept unequalled.